Good evening, it's Kaiser here, and we're back with another terrible idea for a Star Trek CCG First Edition deck. Today we're taking tournament-winning decks by master deck designers Peter and Mr. Rohr, and we are trying to create an amalgamation that uses the basic solving side of Peter's deck and includes a gimmick used by Mr. Rohr. So, what are we doing here? We are playing a Mirror Quadrant, Alpha Quadrant TOS deck. We've got 4 missions in the Mirror Quadrant and 2 missions in the Alpha Quadrant. The basic idea is that we play personnel to Halkan Council. We can play 1 personnel for free and even 1 ship as long as it's native. And we also use the very popular Protect the Timeline, which gives us another free play at this location, though it has to be a unique personnel. Since the mirror guys are somewhat limited in the abilities and skills that they provide, we are also going to use Crossover and Invitation. It says once each turn, your personnel native to the Alpha Quadrant may report, but not download, as if they were Mirror Quadrant. So by using that, we can also play Alpha Quadrant TOS personnel, which gives us a much broader range of skills and useful abilities to include. We can only use this once per turn though, so our ratio of personnel from the Mirror Quadrant and Alpha Quadrant needs to be right. We need slightly more Mirror Quadrant guys, since we can play 3 cards per turn, 1 free play with the Council, 1 free play with Protect the Timeline, and then our regular card play, but only one of those can be an Alpha Quadrant card, if we want to report them all here. That's why we are going to use a bit more infrastructure here. We'll have a Terran outpost, which we shall seed not at Mine Lithium, but the mission next door. And we'll also run a regular Federation outpost that we are seeding in the Alpha Quadrant, so that we also have a place to play our Alpha Quadrant guys if we have already used our once per turn exception from the quadrant reporting rules. Okay, so much for card plays. We also need some doorway infrastructure here. Of course, we're going to use a Q's tent, and in order to report alternate universe personnel and equipment, we're also running the temporal micro wormhole, and the other cards will come in play later. We are trying to get away with a 2 mission win, which is why we are going to seed off-cell Vars at the Alpha Quadrant planet we want to complete. So let's say we want this one here. Let's do it like this. And that means we also need a space mission. We only have space missions in the Mirror Quadrant anyway. And we are trying to solve one of them with a lot of bonus points. So between the off-cell Vars and the bonus points we score in the Mirror Quadrant, we should be able to get to 100. Okay, so we can play 3 cards. That means we want to draw at least as many cards every turn. This is where Halkan Council comes into play. As you know, when this is seeded, any player may download a Mirror Constitution class ship. So we are going to download the ISS Enterprise, which in turn lets us download a Terran Empire personnel. This is going to be James Tiberius Kirk, who then downloads Tantalus Field and also the Classic Communicator, just because he can. And on that mirror ship that we've just seeded, we will play 2 more cards. One of them is Study Divergent History. You know this card from previous episodes. It allows us to twice per turn stop 1 guy from the Mirror Quadrant and 1 guy from the Alpha Quadrant to draw a card. So with 2 Mirror and 2 Alpha Quadrant guys, we can draw 2 cards in our orders phase. And for a potential extra draw, we also seed Imperial Intimidation on our ship here. It needs to be an alternate universe Federation Terran Empire ship, which the ISS Enterprise is. And it has 2 functions. First of all, it doubles the attribute bonuses to the ship from special skills. If you're wondering what a special skill is that could be affected by this, that's game text that we find in the skill box on personnel like regular Scotty and mirror Scotty. For example, here's mirror Scotty. If on a Mirror Universe TOS ship, it is attributes all +2, and Imperial Intimidation doubles that. So as soon as we have Chief Engineer Scott there, that will be a +4 across the board to our ship. And regular Scotty has a similar game text that also applies, if we can find him. Yeah. In his case, if on a Constitution class ship, it is attributes all +2. So get these two guys on a ship that has Imperial Intimidation on it, its attributes +8. So should be enough to withstand a fight every now and then. All right. We have one more seed card left. That is Reunite Legends. It lets us download a classic films ship here. We will mostly use this to grab one particular personnel that we sort of need to get our deck running a bit more smoothly. And apart from that, it's mostly to have another ship to free personnel back and forth from the time location, because we only have Protect the Timeline, allowing us to time travel, and it's once per turn per ship. So we don't get to fly back and forth. But if we have early access to another ship, we have a bit more mobility here. So let's see that one here. All right, that's all our seed cards. We also have Assign Mission Specialists, and we're going to grab McKay and Gibson, and we will report them to the outpost in the Mirror Quadrant here. All right, all the other cards you will see in a moment. All right, let's just shuffle our deck and draw 7 cards and see how a typical turn would play out. So that's about a typical hand as you would expect here. You'll find Alpha Quadrant TOS guys, you'll find Mirror Quadrant TOS guys, you'll find Wormholes and Lenara Khan. I'll get to them in a moment. So we would use our free play from the Halkan Council to report a Terran Empire guy. We would use the free play provided by Protect the Timeline. It has to be a unique personnel for Alpha Quadrant Kirk, using the once per turn exception. And then we still have our regular card play. As you can see, we don't have any Mirror Quadrant guys there. We've already used our exception, so that's why the Alpha Quadrant outpost comes in so handy, because that allows us to play any extra personnel there. In this case, let's play Lenara Khan as our free play here. And that's more or less what we do. We play 3 guys. Occasionally we'll play a ship. And then we will use the ISS Enterprise with the seeded Study Divergent History for 2 things. One of them is for card draws. The other is for harassing our opponent. And that's why we have Lenara Khan and the Wormholes in there. This is the gimmick that Mr. Rohr used in his deck. He would fly the ISS Enterprise to wherever his opponent is, use the Tantalus field to surgically kill off a particular personnel, and then just follow the opponent around or get out of dodge if his opponent comes with a big fleet. So let's have a look at this gimmick real quick. There are 7 copies of Lenara and 7 Wormholes in the deck, so you should find one relatively early. As soon as you have one, you can use it to transfer the ship that Lenara Khan is aboard to any location. Look at her text. It says, you may play a Wormhole interrupt on a location to move her ship there. And we don't have to worry about the game text of Wormhole. We don't need a second Wormhole. We don't need to stop our ship. We're not using the game text of that card. We're just playing that card on a location to move her ship there. It doesn't say anything about stopping that ship or anything about using the game text of the wormhole. It allows us to insta-move our ship to anywhere, even to different quadrants. And then, once we've zoomed to where our opponent is, we'll use the Tantalus field. Once each turn, discard top card of draw deck to kill a universal personal, or discard top 3 to kill a unique personal here. It doesn't say random selection, it's our choice. And what we're going to do is we will go after security guys with a vengeance. Our dilemma pile here consists of lots of wall dilemmas that require security or double security or triple security in the case of Berserk Changeling. So we'll try and eliminate those whenever we can. Don't worry at all about discarding cards from the top of your draw deck. Once we have everything in play that we need in order to move around, we don't care which cards we discard. So even if it's 3 cards to kill a unique personal, we'll just do that. If they are good cards, maybe there's an extra copy in our deck, but never worry about discarding those cards. No card is so important that you cannot afford to discard it to trigger the kill here. There are a couple of rather important cards that we want to get out early, but we have ways to access them on turns 1 or 2. Okay, so we played Lenara here in the Alpha Quadrant. Unfortunately, that's far away from our ship. At the moment, we don't have a way to get there, but by turn 2, at the latest, we have solved that little problem here, and I'm going to show you how. So we are still in the orders phase of our first turn. We've played our cards. And then we do a couple of things. First of all, we will download a space-time portal with temporal micro wormhole. So let's do that. And we will leave that space-time portal on table, because once we have discarded our temporal micro wormhole, which we will do in a moment, this is the only way that allows us to report alternate universe cards outside of the Halkan Council. And that will be important in a couple of situations. So don't use it to drop a ship, don't use it to return a ship to hand, because most likely we will need it. Okay, we haven't downloaded anyone this turn, and we haven't played an alternate universe card other than the ones to the native time location here. So we will use the download on Reunite Legends to grab a classic films ship, and that will be the Enterprise A. That is our alternate universe card play for the turn. And since we at the moment are still allowed to report alternate universe personnel, we will also use the special download of any Federation personnel right now. We could wait for it until our opponent's turn starts, but we can also just do it right now and download Admiral Kirk. He is in here for 2 things. One, he can starve this ship, so we can use it to ferry guys around. And the other is his super useful ability, once each turn may discard 1 card, from hand that is, to draw a card. That is so important because we will find lots of other copies of Lenara Khan. We will also find wormholes in situations when we don't need them. So there will be a lot of dead cards. And Admiral Kirk is one way to get rid of cards we don't need at the moment and draw another card and hope to find something useful. Okay, so what else do we do on our first turn? We will use the Enterprise A to bring the mission specialists and Kirk over to here, then time travel back to the Halkan Council, Kirk will stay on the chip. The mission specialists will go over to here. And since it says any ship may time travel between here once per turn per ship, so the ISS Enterprise can also time travel. Let's put everything here, apart from Kirk, on the ISS Enterprise. Time travel. And then we can do stuff on the space line. I need to point out one thing here. It says ship is stopped unless ship or 3 personnel aboard are native to this timeline. So actually we don't want to bring the mission specialists along. So let's just leave them at the outpost and assume Kirk flew this ship by himself. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to beam the guys off if the ship is stopped. So this other ship flies over. The ISS Enterprise is not stopped by time traveling since it's native. And then let's bring these guys aboard. Before we do the stopping here, we'll use... Oh, hang on. Just realized I mixed them up with my hand. That should never happen. Those 4 were my hand cards. Those are the cards aboard the ship. Before we stop them, we are going to use the text on James Tiberius Kirk. He's a captain, so we will flip taking charge. And this allows us to download an objective card. We want to download an objective card to a planet mission where we don't have a facility. So let's fly back using our remaining range. And then download an objective card. That's going to be Proces Ore mining. Again, a card with which you should be familiar by now. It allows us to, at the start of turn, if we have a geology on that planet, to discard 1 card from hand, place bottom card of this card pile in point area and score a point for that, and then draw 1 card or even draw 2 cards if we have 2 geology there. So we will beam down McKay, our mission specialist, with geology. So that's another way to cycle cards away at the beginning of our turn. And then we still have a mirror guy and an Alpha Quadrant girl and a mirror guy and an Alpha Quadrant guy aboard our ship. So we will stop them for 2 card draws. And at the end of the turn, we will also have a look at Imperial Intimidation. It says, end of each turn, if this ship is staffed, orbiting an unsolved non-homeworld planet mission. Mine Dilithium is unsolved, it's a planet mission, it's not a homeworld. You may probe. Okay, let's probe. And we see that it's not a good probe, because Imperial Intimidation asks for Terran Empire icons or equipment cards. We've got a decent chunk of those cards in the deck, but Imperial Intimidation is by no means a guaranteed card draw. That's just a bonus here. Sometimes we get that extra draw, sometimes we don't. Don't worry about it. It's just a bonus here. So that means Yeoman Rand will be our 1 regular end of turn card draw. And that concludes our first turn here. Okay. As you can see, for our second turn, we have a decent hand. We have a Mirror Quadrant guy that we can play. We have an Alpha Quadrant personnel that we can play for free. And we will also play Lieutenant Palamas, probably to the Federation outpost, because we will use our once per turn exception from Crossover and Invitation for Yeoman Rand. Meaning we have all these cards here that we could discard. 3 wormholes is probably more than we need at the start here. So we are going to pitch 1 at the start of our turn. We could have done it on turn 1 using Kirk. But let's do it on the start of our turn with the Proces Ore. We discard this. Then we put the bottom card of our discard pile into our point area to score 1 point. Yay. And we draw a card. And as you can see, there's another Lenara. That's why we have those two cycling abilities here, the Proces Ore and Admiral Kirk. Okay, let's play our cards. We play a Mirror Quadrant personal for free with Halkan Council. We'll play a TOS personal for free with Protect the Timeline using the once per turn exception here for Alpha Quadrant personal. And we'll play Carolyn Palamas as our regular card play to her native Alpha Quadrant. Alright, we have a Lenara we don't need, so in our orders phase we'll use Admiral Kirk to discard her and draw a card. We've drawn Scotty, that's much more useful. We have a doorway in hand, so we might as well play it right now and get out either Lower Decks or Captain's Log. Let's take Captain's Log as some extra protection, because we'll be harassing our opponent in a few moments. And then put this on top of our deck. And then we can do other stuff. First of all, we will need to make sure that we can actually get to Lenara Khan and set up the harassing engine here. So we'll use our last hidden agenda here. That's Defend Homeworld. We'll discard it and download a security personal. Should be in the tent, I think. Yeah, there is. Barile has got security. We'll report him aboard our ship, the ISS Enterprise here. And for that, we need to pitch the temporal micro wormhole. Discard it. Barile can now mix and cooperate with our guys. And he immediately proceeds to download any equipment card. He goes for the multidimensional transport device. Now, that is so important because it says twice each turn where present allows transporters to beam to opposite quadrant anywhere at corresponding location, ignoring all shields. So what this means here is that as long as we have transporters, that ship has transporters, we may beam our guys over to the Alpha Quadrant version of the Halkan planet. And we can also do it at Incapacitate Inhabitants, because that's the corresponding mirror universe location to the Alpha Quadrant's review mining operation. So we'll fly to here. We beam over our guys with that device. The ship provides transporters, and then we'll beam them back into the mirror universe. And now we have access to Lenara, and we can go about our business of hunting down our opponent's security personnel. All right, we could start immediately, or we could wait another turn. Let's just say we'll wait out the turn, and let's have a look at what we've got here. First of all, we can stop the guys to draw 2 cards with Study Divergent History. And at the end of our turn, we can probe again. Again, we didn't hit a Terran Empire icon, so that's just our draw at the end of the turn. And we would then be able to proceed with our turn 3. 2 wormholes in hand is probably something that we want to keep. We have a Scotty in hand, but we don't have a Mirror Quadrant personal in play. So in this case, I'll probably go and discard the Ready Room Door to Proces Ore mining, because the only other Captain's Log card we could fetch is Lower Decks, and conveniently we have a guy in hand that downloads lower decks anyway. So, start of our turn 3, we'll discard this, put bottom card in our point area, score a point for that, and draw a card. And no luck, we still haven't found a mirror quadrant guy. So in this case, we'll just play Scotty with our exception here. And in the alpha quadrant, we'll play Sam Lavelle as our regular card play. And we can download lower decks immediately here. We'll use Admiral Kirk to cycle away the second copy of Mr. Scott. Discard to draw. Now we have a mirror quadrant guy, but this ability only works in the orders phase. Alright, let's try and consolidate our personnel. Let's have a look what we've got in play and what we can do with them. First of all, we want to bring the reinforcements here to the space line. So Kirk will fly the Enterprise over, and then we have the guys there. However, the ship is still stopped because we don't have 3 personnel aboard that are native to this timeline. He is native, but Scotty and Yeoman Rand aren't because they aren't Mirror Universe cards. They were able to report there, but we won't actually be able to do anything with them this turn. A way around it would be, for example, to add Temporal Conduit. That is a second card that allows you to move to the from the time location to the space line, but it's another seat slot. So if you're willing to invest in that other seat slot, that gives you a lot more flexibility here. Okay, then among the cards we still can use, we'll beam over to the Review Mining Operation mission and beam back with Sam Lavelle. And then we'll fly to the mission we want to attempt. Let's say this one. And with Taking Charge, we'll download an objective. And that will be Fear will keep them in line. That is one of our main point engines here. When you solve missions, score bonus points equal to your total weapons from staffed alternate universe Terra Empire ships at this mission. Limit 15 points. 15 points is a huge chunk of bonus points. At the moment, we only have one ship here. It's got weapons of 6 printed. We've got James Tiberius Kirk aboard. So a matching commander brings the weapons up to 9 with the +3 here. And right now we have Chief Navigator Chekhov, gives us +1. And with the Imperial Intimidation, it's another +1. So we are weapons 11 for 11 bonus points. However, we don't want to attempt this mission for only 11 bonus points. So either we'll wait until we have another ship out or something else that gives us more bonus points. So for now, what I'd probably do is beam guys I don't need over to one of the Alpha Quadrant missions and then use the Enterprise to hunt down my opponent's security guys. Aboard the Enterprise, we need Alpha and Mirror. Alpha Mirror. Let's use this Mirror, and let's use Lenara as Alpha because we want her for the relocation anyway. So these are the guys I would leave there, leaving us with these guys to attempt missions. 4 guys is still a very unlikely chance to complete a mission or to clear out dilemmas, but we probably want to attempt here anyway. Right. Let's say our opponent hasn't given us any good targets yet. Maybe they haven't got security in play. So we would then draw 2 cards from the guys aboard the ship. And our priority here would then be finding another ship. There are lots of ships in the deck, and not having found one yet is rather odd. But we can't help it at the moment. We have to dig more and see if we can eventually find one. But turn 3 is usually when you should start at doing missions here. We had a bit of bad luck that we couldn't bring in these guys, but that should work out next turn. Let's just sit this one out. Probe again for the Imperial Intimidation. This time we hit a Terran Empire icon, so we draw it, and then we draw the regular card. And we still haven't found a ship. Start of our turn, we'll discard her, put the temporal micro wormhole in a point area, score a point, draw a card, and still haven't found a ship. That's very unlucky here. Never mind, we have to play more guys. We'll play Haddock for free as our mirror guy, Lieutenant Zulu for free as a unique Alpha Quadrant guy, and then we'll probably play Niels Barris over here. This ship is no longer stopped. Before we do anything, maybe let's get rid of Crewman Wilson, discard him to draw a card with Kirk. Finally, we found an ISS Constitution, so now things are looking much better. Okay, ISS Enterprise downloads one more objective, Reap All the Glory, which can give us another 5 points if we complete this mission with 4 Terran Empire guys, and then we are more or less set. We will proceed to collect our guys. So let's use the ISS Enterprise. Go to here, use the multidimensional transport device to fetch Niels Barris. And then the Enterprise will fly to here. We'll beam all the guys we want to use to attempt a mission over to the Alpha Quadrant mission that we want to attempt. So all these guys, including the classic communicator, and we'll leave the transport device here aboard the Enterprise for the moment. And then we would probably move the Enterprise out of the way by playing a wormhole and move it to where our opponent is. And then with these guys, just hunt their security guys, discard 1 if it's a universal personnel, or discard 3 if it's a unique personnel we want to kill. You don't get to have a look at anybody in play. But if you just look at what your opponent is playing and you know that there is a unique guy with security, then you can do it 3 times. If it's a universal personnel you want to kill, then just discard the 1. And then we have the ship out of harm's way when we attempt that planet mission over there. If we need one, we can always move Lenara back. Or there are also ways of simply reporting ships to the Federation outpost here. Let's just have a quick look through the deck what else we'll find. We have Starship Enterprise that can report in the Alpha Quadrant if we need a ship there. We have a Starship Constitution that can also report there. We will find Admiral Riker, who can report to the Alpha Quadrant outpost here, or also to the Terran outpost in the Mirror Quadrant using the exception here, who could download any Enterprise. So he could download the Starship Enterprise, giving us mobility in the Alpha Quadrant. And there's also a copy of Going to the Top, which could fetch a double leadership personnel, which would be Admiral Riker, who would then download the Enterprise. So there are ways to get a ship in the Alpha Quadrant. other than just moving our ISS Enterprise around with the Wormhole. And that's more or less it. The rest of the cards in the deck are lots of copies of the Nara and the Wormhole. You've seen that we can draw into her pretty reliably. And we have Mirror Quadrant and Alpha Quadrant TOS guys. There is a slight majority of Mirror Quadrant personnel, I think 25, whereas the Alpha Quadrant guys clock in at 18. So you should be able to at least use those 2 free plays every turn. As you've seen, it doesn't always work out, but most of the time you're good. And other than that, there isn't really anything interesting here. The personnel cover a good range of skills. Bit light on medical, bit light on archaeology and geology. There was also, I think, honor. That's going to be a bit of a problem naturally. So things like Incarnate Spirits can be a bit problematic. There's, remember the Alamo in here, simply as an additional kill of a security personnel once per game. There is the interrupt that lets us download a geology personnel. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. And that's really it. In the Q's tent, we have the classic equipment, the tricorder, the medical tricorder, the phaser that various guys can download, or First Officer Spock. We have File Mission Report as an additional bonus point engine, and we have Incoming Message Federation, the card that lets you bail out of a space mission where you find a devastating dilemma. So with all these guys and cards, we should be able to get a 2-mission win. What's the maths behind it? Let's have a look. We complete one of these space missions here using Reap All the Glory. All we need to bring is 4 Terran Empire guys, and they need to be around at the time we solve the mission. Then we score 5 points for that. And Fear will keep them in line. For that, we need to have weapons of 15 among our starved Empire ships there by the time of solving, which shouldn't be a big problem. So that's 20 bonus points, together with the 30 or 35 points from the mission. That should get us above the dead end threshold. If we're doing secure supply lines, we can also score 5 points, sorry, not from him, 5 points from Gibson as a mission specialist. There is also the Treachery mission specialist in the deck, and St. Davis, but there is no way to download him. Apart from wasting the Defend Homeworld Security download, but you want that for Bareil. So if we draw into him, that's good, but it's by no means essential. So we have 35 here, 30 plus 5 from the mission specialist here, and a potential 20 bonus points here, bringing us to 55. And then, of course, we also have the Alpha Quadrant. We have 2 planet missions here. One of them will have the off-cell vase. So let's say we have, in addition to our 55, the 30 from Research Historic Accident, brings us to 85, and the off-cell vase then kicks in and brings us to exactly 100. We will probably have scored 5 points from Proces Ore mining if the game goes to turn 6. And there is a chance we can score 5 points from the File Mission Report. So that will bring us to 110. Other than that, we don't have a lot of wiggle room for bonus points. If we go for Review Mining Operation, you can get another 5 points for Geology if you bring McKay. And that's about it. There isn't a lot of other stuff to do. If you find the space mission that you want to do dead-ended, that can of course set you back a bit. Sometimes it helps to attempt the space mission first, have a look at the dilemmas, and only download the objectives that you need once you are sure that there is no dead end there. but that can also backfire if you accidentally solve the mission. Well, you've scored the mission, that's always good, but it won't bring you in, it won't earn you enough points that you can do the 2-mission win there. You cannot score the bonus points on this card here. That's solely in there for the download, and that's about it. All right, so I'm very confident that the solving side here is a dead solid deck. I've played the deck without the Lenara Khan gimmick myself. Peter lent the deck to me for UK Nationals 2 years ago. I won every game with it, so that's absolutely solid. And also the Lenara Khan gimmick deck, titled Holes of Khan, if I remember correctly, won a tournament, though that was in conjunction with Klingon, so it had a bit more battle power, but it would still work with, the basic premise is the same. So you fly to where your opponent is, and you try to weed out a couple of the skills that they need for your dilemmas. I'm sure you can improve the ratios a lot. I'm sure you can find a more efficient dilemma pile here. What I've done, let's just clear the table here. What I've done is just go for dilemmas that require lots of security, set them up with things that allow you some choice in who to kill. Rules of obedience can sometimes allow you access to a security personnel that you want to kill. Same is true for the M113 creature. Imminent disintegration protocol seeded at a planet simply kills 1 security with the most skill icons and then requires 2 more security. So you can use this as an initial filter or as a wall. Threw in some flapjacks here to just put them after a big wall, like the land deal. They have to bring a security. We kill a lot of guys, so hopefully we'll hit the security, and then they run into a dilemma asking for even more security. There's also Temptations of the Flesh, which is a good filter. 1 personal is stopped for each objective in play, limit 5. To get past requires a gold star or an Enterprise E personal or any queen. So what you can do with that, for example, is lead in with the M113 creature, kill a security guy if one is there. Then lots of guys will be stopped. You will have a lot of objectives in play. You have the Study Divergent History, you have the Imperial Intimidation, you have the Assigned Mission Specialists, you have Protect the Timeline, I think. Let's just have a look at the deck list real quick. Oh, the Reunite Legends. The timeline thing is an incident. The Defend Homeworld we already have discarded once they attempt a mission, but we bring 4 objectives of our own, and chances are that our opponent also runs at least 1 objective, and we can also download additional ones. So usually this will stop 5 guys. So it's a real casino thing here, whether they get the gold star to go through. Oftentimes it will be a stop, and then they attempt with a big crew, meaning we'll get to pick from more targets if we, for example, put Rules of Obedience behind it, or just the Berserk Changeling. Let's have a look at this. They attempt, we immediately kill a security. Temptations of the Flash stops them. We might be able to kill another security with the creature. Then they can either move away until the creature has counted down, or if they attempt with a big crew and luck through the Temptations of the Flesh, chances are they still don't have the 3 security, and then the creature would allow us to go for someone else. And whenever they are stopped, we can go there with the ISS Enterprise, kill a personal with the Tantalus field, and hopefully keep their security guys in check. But you could also change this for, let's say, diplomacy or science or whatever you're after, or whatever you think is adequate for the meta. All right, I think that's everything for today. If you enjoy this, please leave a like or comment or subscribe to this channel. And until next time, I suggest you expend your power in the universe. Bye bye.